If you're thinking about purchasing waterfront land on Smith Lake, you need to watch this first. So you have dreams of building the perfect lake home in the perfect neighborhood on the perfect lake lot. From property restrictions to dock permits and even Alabama power setbacks, there are several things that buyers overlook that could cost them thousands and ultimately result in their dream home not being as perfect as they imagined. In this video, I'll walk you through all the key factors to consider before you invest in lakefront land on Smith Lake. Let's dive in. A common mistake that buyers make is foregoing the option to get a survey. I always recommend that my clients get a survey so we can confirm the true boundaries of the property and know exactly what you're buying. A survey will confirm lot size, easements, and encroachments before you commit to the purchase. Sometimes sellers have an existing survey that they will provide you. In my experience, it is best practice to have the same surveyor revisit the property and at least mark all the corners. A few other boundaries that you may not be familiar with that are extremely important when buying a lake lot is the 525 and the 510 mark. Alabama Power Company owns everything below the 510-foot elevation on Smith Lake. This means that you cannot place any structure or change the landscape below that mark. You will need special authorization and a permit before doing anything below this mark. So you're definitely going to want to make sure that you know where that is on your particular property so that you don't incur any fines. And speaking of incurring extra cost, the 525 is the FEMA flood mark. Smith Lake is generally in FEMA's Zone A, which is defined as the 100-year flood zone, meaning there's a 1% annual chance of flooding. And according to FEMA, being in Zone A means that properties are in an area with a higher risk of flooding. And if you have a federally backed mortgage, flood insurance is often required and can be very costly. Surveys are not cheap, but they can help you avoid very costly mistakes in the long run. I did just mention the Alabama Power 510-foot elevation setback, which brings me to the next item to consider before purchasing vacant land: dock and lakeshore permits. Alabama Power regulates shoreline development, so knowing the rules up front is crucial. If you're looking to repair, build, or modify anything on the lake, you will need a permit granting access. If you're building a road or a cart path to your dock, placing riprap along the shoreline, or redecking an existing dock, you will have to acquire the permit yourself or make sure that your contractor that's performing the work gets the permit. This is not one of those instances where it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, I assure you. Not having the appropriate permits can cost you some lofty fines. If you intend to put a floating dock on your property, you're going to want to make sure that your specific property is dock permittable prior to closing. The size of the dock allowed varies per property. The general rule is lots with less than 100 feet of shoreline may be restricted or may not be eligible for structures. And you can't block ingress or egress in the slough. However, the Shoreline Management Office is really good to work with all property owners to obtain some type of structure if requested. The easiest way to apply for a shoreline permit is on the apcshorelines.com website. They'll receive your request and the shoreline professional will go out, they'll take a look at your property or your project and determine if you are within the guidelines and can acquire a permit. Another mistake that I see buyers make is purchasing land in restricted neighborhoods that don't align with their desired house plans or property intentions. You don't necessarily have to have a house plan picked out before purchasing waterfront property, but having a general idea of desired square footage, outbuildings, and the use of the property is good to know. We have restricted and non-restricted communities here on Smith Lake. Restricted communities often have HOA fees, guidelines for home styles and necessary square footages, and limitations on rental properties. Non-restricted lots provide more freedom, but they may lack paved roads, certain utilities, and some shared amenities. If your desired property is in a restricted neighborhood, you should always request a copy of the covenants, codes, and restrictions for that neighborhood. This will give you all of the details on the HOA fees, the minimum square footage, outbuilding restrictions, and rental property limitations. The last mistake to avoid before purchasing waterfront land is to get a percolation test. A perk test measures how quickly water drains through the soil, assessing its ability to absorb and treat wastewater. which is a critical factor in designing septic systems. Knowing the perk rate helps ensure that the septic system will function properly and avoid any wastewater ponding or contaminating groundwater. This test is required by local health departments or building codes before installing any septic system. There are several factors that affect perk tests, like your soil type, depth of bedrock, and the presence of seasonally high water tables. Not every waterfront lot can support a traditional septic system. A perk test is critical to ensure that you can build the home you desire on your land. Purchasing land on Smith Lake is an exciting investment, but only if you do it the right way. If you're considering buying a lot and you need expert guidance, please reach out or download my free Smith Lake Lots and Land Vendor Guide. In this guide, you will find all of my trusted vendors in one place and a property inspection checklist, so you can avoid all of these costly mistakes when you get ready to buy your waterfront lot. If you have additional questions about buying vacant land, drop them in the comments so that we can all learn together. I hope you found this information helpful. As always, like this video and subscribe to my channel for all things moving to Smith Lake. And I will see you on the lake.